They say the guillotine ended her reign, but when the moonlight hits Versailles and the mirrors whisper her name, the queen still walks. The queen who never died, they built her story in marble and silk, a fairy tale spun from gold dust and the breath of courtiers. Marie Antoinette, the girl from Vienna who became the heartbeat of Versailles, was never meant to fade quietly. Even as centuries crumble, her laughter still echoes through the Hall of Mirrors, bright, defiant, and unrepentant. For though her body met the blade, her legend refused to die. She was born in 1755 under the Habsburg sun, 15th child of Empress Maria Theresa. A daughter trained not for power, but for peace, not for war, but for alliance. At 14, her life was sealed with a signature, a promise written in ink and destiny. She was sent to France, the most glittering, perilous kingdom in Europe, to marry a boy who would one day be king. Louis Auguste of France. The journey across borders was her first transformation. Every step toward Versailles was a step away from childhood. At the border, her Austrian belongings were stripped away. Every jewel, every gown, even her beloved dog. She was reborn in French silk, the Austrian Archduchess turned Dauphine of France. The ceremony was both cruel and divine. She entered a new life but left herself behind. Versailles waited, golden, enormous, and hungry. Its walls breathed politics, gossip, and perfume. Its chandeliers wept with wax from endless nights of dancing and deceit. And into this dazzling cage walked a girl of 15, trembling behind fan and lace. For all its beauty, Versailles was a beast. Every eye watched her, every whisper carved her. Her hairdresser, Leonard, built towers of powdered dreams upon her head, ships, gardens, and impossible heights. Because a queen could not simply exist. She had to astonish. She became a vision, the queen of roses, the muse of fashion, the child who played at power. She laughed too freely, spent too lavishly, and lived too beautifully for a kingdom cracking under debt. And in that laughter, France saw both its joy and its ruin. But Marie Antoinette was not a monster. She was a mirror, reflecting back the desires of a nation that loved excess as much as it hated it. While the people starved, the court consumed. But she too was a prisoner of its illusion. She found sanctuary in the Petit Trianon, her private realm, a small palace wrapped in gardens, where she could shed the mask of majesty. There she played shepherdess, dreamed of simplicity, and for fleeting hours believed she could be ordinary. But Versailles never forgot her. The whispers followed. Madame Deficit, Austrian traitor, the foreign queen who bleeds France dry. The same crowd that once cheered her beauty now hissed her name. Outside the gilded gates, famine swelled like a storm. The bread riots grew into thunder. And when the lightning of revolution struck in 1789, its first target was the crown that glittered too brightly. The people demanded justice. They wanted a head, any head, to roll. And the queen, now 34, stood in the crosshairs of history. The fall of the rose, they dragged the monarchy from its thrones to its knees. Louis XVI, her shy, kind husband, faltered before the tide, and she once called frivolous became steel. In the shadow of the guillotine, she shed her silks for mourning black. At the Tuileries Palace, her laughter died. The gardens where she once walked were guarded by bayonets. She became a mother behind bars, a queen in name only. When the royal family tried to flee in secret, disguised and desperate, they were caught in Varennes, recognized not by soldiers, but by a coin bearing their faces. A coin that betrayed them. That was the moment the myth began to unravel. The queen who had once ruled hearts was now an enemy of the people. And yet, in the darkness of her downfall, something immortal stirred. At her trial, she faced the Committee of Public Safety, men who spat her name like poison. They accused her of crimes both monstrous and absurd. And when one accusation crossed the line, that she had corrupted her own son, Marie Antoinette rose from her seat and spoke words that silenced even her enemies. If I have not answered, it is because nature itself refuses to respond to such a charge brought against a mother. In that moment, the mob saw not a monster but a woman, pale, broken, yet unbent. She became more than a queen. She became a symbol. The execution that never ended October 16, 1793. A cold morning, gray as old parchment. The carts rolled through Paris carrying the condemned. Among them sat Marie Antoinette, her once golden hair shorn short, her gown simple white linen. Her hands were tied behind her, but her posture remained regal. When she stumbled climbing the scaffold, she turned to her executioner and whispered, "Pardon me, sir. I did not mean to do it." Those were her last words, quiet, graceful, entirely human. The blade fell. The crowd roared. The queen was dead, but death, as it turned out, was no cage, because even as her body vanished into an unmarked grave, the legend of Marie Antoinette began to live, in the paintings that refused to fade, in the mirrors of Versailles that still reflect her smile, and in the haunting that history could not silence, the queen who never died. They say that on certain nights, when the air is heavy with rain and memory, you can hear footsteps echo through the hall of mirrors, not the heavy tread of tourists, but the soft glide of silk. Candles flicker without wind. A faint perfume, orange blossom and rosewater, fills the air, and in the reflection of 1,000 mirrors a pale figure stands, her eyes sorrowful yet proud, the queen who never died. Witnesses claim to have seen her, not as a ghost in chains, but as a vision bathed in moonlight, walking the corridors she once ruled. Sometimes, she pauses at the balcony where she waved to the starving crowd as if still trying to understand their hunger. Sometimes, she sits at her dressing table, brushing hair that no longer exists. And sometimes she vanishes in a single heartbeat, as though history itself pulled her back. But perhaps her haunting is not a curse. Perhaps it is a reminder that power, beauty, and tragedy are threads of the same tapestry. That a queen's death is never just her own, but the death of an era, a dream, a mirror in which a nation once saw itself. For France never stopped seeing her. Painters immortalized her face. Poets reimagined her words. Filmmakers reinvented her life. Every generation revives her image, not as the villain of revolution, but as the eternal muse of fragility and grace. Her story became a reflection of France itself, resilient, romantic, defiant. She was condemned yet adored, erased yet remembered, the queen who never died, because she became an idea, and ideas once born are harder to kill than flesh. Versailles. After the fall, after her death, Versailles stood empty, a corpse of marble and gold. The fountains dried, the mirrors dulled. But time has a way of resurrecting its ghosts. When the palace reopened as a museum, visitors claimed to feel a presence, soft, watchful, sad. Guards spoke of hearing faint music in the Queen's Theater when no one was inside. Tourists fainted in her bedchamber, overcome by what they swore was the scent of roses and candle wax. And then, the story of the two English women. In 1901, Charlotte Anne Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain visited Versailles. As they walked the gardens, they felt the air grow still, as though they had stepped backward in time. They saw a woman sketching beneath the trees, dressed in pale green silk, her face luminous and strange. Later, they swore the woman was Marie Antoinette herself. The encounter became legend, the Moberly-Jourdain incident. Skeptics called it imagination, believers called it proof. But to those who have walked Versailles at dusk, when the last light turns gold to gray, there is no question. Something of her remains. Legacy of the undying queen. Marie Antoinette was more than her downfall. She was music and marble, laughter and ruin. She was a girl caught in a storm centuries ahead of her time, a monarch born into the theater of politics, who played her part until the curtain fell. Today, her name sells perfumes, films, and fantasies. But beneath the powdered myth lies a heartbeat, the truth of a woman who loved her children fiercely, who faced death without tears, who never understood the hatred that consumed her world. History rewrote her as a villain, then rewrote her again as a saint. And somewhere between those extremes lives the ghost of who she truly was. Her immortality lies not in haunting halls or whispered tales, but in the persistence of empathy that centuries later we still ask, was she really guilty? Or merely human? Perhaps that is what it means to never die, to remain alive in the questions of those who remember. Epilogue: The mirror and the moon tonight. Versailles sleeps beneath a silver sky. The tourists have gone. The chandeliers hang dark, their crystals heavy with silence. But somewhere deep within the Queen's apartments, a candle flickers to life, though no hand has touched it. The flame wavers, reflected in an endless corridor of mirrors, and for just a moment a figure stands before them. Her gaze steady, her face serene. She turns toward the window where the moon spills across the marble floors. Her gown whispers as she walks. Her reflection lingers after she's gone, and if you listen, truly listen, you'll hear it. The faint echo of her laughter, the sigh of a soul too proud to fade. Marie Antoinette, the queen who never died.